Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Glendale Housing Authority meeting of July 22nd, 2008. May we have a roll call for the authority, please?
Authority members: Raymond. Here. Mincy.
Here.
Najarian.
Here.
Brazian.
Here.
Quintero.
Here.
Weaver.
Here.
Chairman Yusefian.
Here. May we have your report, please?
The agenda for the July 22nd, 2008 regular meeting of the Glendale Housing Authority was posted on Thursday, July 17, 2008 on the bulletin board outside City Hall.
What's next, please?
Next is approval of minutes. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Okay, the minutes will be approved as submitted. Next, please.
Next item is oral communication. Discussion is limited time. It's not part of this agenda. Each speaker is allowed 5 minutes. Members of the Housing Authority may question or respond to a speaker, but there will be no debate or decision. The matter may be referred to staff through the Executive Director for an investigation.
I have one card. Mr. Herbert Milano.
Good afternoon. My name is Herbert Milano, members of the Housing Authority and city staff. I want to refer to last week's continuation on my comments having to do with the Bazaar City Lights development on San Fernando Road, at 3685 San Fernando Road. On July the 8th, several community members came to speak about their concerns about just the sheer number of new residences in the area and how it would impact parking and parkland. Now, we know that the area in South Glendale has been deficient in parkland, and we're thankful that there's a new park available across the street. But, you know, if you look at all the units that have been added since that park was already in the planning stages, there are 204 new residences. Imagine for a moment that we were to suggest 200 residences along Glen Oaks Boulevard, there by the canyon where you live, Mr. Yusefian. I mean, even adding an extra story to a single house creates a significant amount of havoc within the community, and they go up in arms for just one building that goes up higher than the actual comparable houses. Here we're adding 200 units, which means, and many of them are 3-bedroom units, which would impact significantly how that park is going to be used or any overuse of the park. And I think those are worth considering. Now, the issue that I have is that a resident can buy and say, look, she is concerned about the significant traffic, and Mr. Najarian basically took light of this issue by asking the city attorney a fairly self-serving question, like, you know, have you seen an accident happen there, and do the lights work there? I mean, that doesn't give me much confidence that we can actually discuss this thing in an intelligent way. I could ask the city attorney if he had eggs for breakfast, you know, was it nutritious and delicious? You know, and I can just discount everything I have to do with cholesterol. You know, there are issues that the residents were concerned about, and we did not basically address them. We would know the name of Salim Karimi very easily. We would know the finances of that particular project very easily. But how well do you know the community? Do you know a single person by name in that community? Now, Mr. Salim Karimi came, and if I think I saw him walking out, Mr. Peter Sovak, with his arms put around his shoulder. I wonder how many residents in South Glendale that actually have done the same thing and put their arms around, you know, Mr. Sovak and say, you know, what a nice job you've done for us. You know, the issue here is that we know more about the developer than we do about the community. And I think that highlights the issue. I want to bring another issue, and that is to thank all those in the city who have contributed to the food banks that are in dire need of supplies. And it is my hope that those, especially those earning over $100,000, can contribute at least twice a month for the foreseeable future and help those individuals who are in dire need. The other item that I wish to talk about is the news that I've read concerning the potential closing of the clinic at Pacific Edison. When that clinic opened, I was there, and I was very thankful for the city and for the city manager for taking the initiative to move this thing along. Because it's in dire need, and we benefit significantly by not having individuals go to the emergency room of hospitals when a preventative care can be done easily and very cheaply. So here's my suggestion. If the taxpayers' money is really the taxpayers' money, then why don't we take the employee health service and move it there and make those services available to the taxpayers? I mean, we got other hospitals, and we know very well that people in the fire department and in the police department, you know, have, you know, days off that they could use to go to regular hospital for checkups and so forth. So here's an investment that we're making. It's at significant expense. It's over $1 million a year. And look at the significant impact that would have if we were to staff that clinic with the people that we already have in our payroll and provide a service. I think it's an idea that may be worth pondering about, to give those residences who don't have insurance and who don't have access to affordable health care an opportunity to be able to take their children for some immediate assistance and hopefully prevent the much higher expenses that the state of California would then have to spend, in treating these individuals once it becomes an emergency, meaning paramedics have to attend to them, meaning they wind up at the emergency room as the back entry to free service, and we wind up paying through the nose for it and causing California's deficit. I think that we can do our part by using the employee health services and using that particular facility to help out those in need. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I have no more cards. No comments. Order communications closed. What's next, please?
Next is authority member staff comments.
Mr. Draymond.
Perhaps I should have brought this up during comments on oral communications, but nonetheless, that idea or suggestion by Mr. Milano, what is the feasibility of that? Does anybody on staff know of doing something like that?
Well, let me answer. Not having given it any thought, it does strike me that there are a number of areas that could be potentially problematic, not the least of which is that our staff, small as it is in health services, to provide basic employee types of physicals and updates. We don't have a doctor on staff, for example, but issues of liability and how you open yourself up to the general public and that kind of a social services type clinic isn't something we're necessarily trained for. And that's why in staffing that, we turn to agencies that do have that kind of experience, can do the billing, understand the Medi-Cal and Medicare processes so they can attempt to get recovery of costs, which is why we have looked to those kinds of social services agencies. We're just not in that business. That doesn't mean that we couldn't be, but I think it's an entirely different type of operation than you'd see at our wellness center, which is there geared up to essentially treat the kinds of pre-employment issues and minor first aid kinds of things that may occur on the job, not necessarily the types of services or level of services that you'd see in that kind of a clinic.
Madeline?
Yeah. Mr. Chair, members of the Housing Authority, on next week's City Council agenda, there is a report on the Edison Pacific Clinic and requesting authorization to go out to bid. There are a couple of community health clinics in the area here who are appear to be performing quite well, and they are interested in taking that over. So we'll be asking for authorization to go out to bid. At the same time, I guess we could look at discuss the option of employee health, but the idea was to get another community health clinic to take it over. Okay.
Well, to me, Mr. Chair, it seems to me that the underlying comment was not so much that, in other words, the idea of the employee wellness issue, I think, was being presented as a means of trying to preserve the use of or the opportunity to have some kind of a clinic there. So I'm at least happy to hear that we are looking at some way to keep that open and keep those services provided. So,
Oh, yeah.
thank you.
Senator Cherry?
Well, I usually don't respond to Mr. Milano, but I think I need to set the record straight when he refers to my comments as making light of the issue. Now, Mr. Milano, perhaps you remember that meeting. The residents said they did not want the development. We all heard that. There were traffic issues raised, parking issues, but there was also issues about the park raised. They said, why don't we put a park instead of the development there? They stated that or perhaps you, stated that it is dangerous to cross the street to get to the Cerritos Park, which led me to question Tom Mitchell, our traffic engineer, who was sitting in the audience, on the two basic questions. Number one, are the traffic lights operable? There is a traffic light with a crosswalk at Glendale and San Fernando, and perhaps a few hundred feet down at Brand and San Fernando. The answer we got that those lights are operable. The next question is, despite being operable, have we experienced a high number of accidents or injuries regarding pedestrians? Going to the crux of the issue of whether it's safe to cross the street. The answer was no, we do not have any. So if asking those critical questions on the issue of pedestrian safety, which was raised by the speakers, or perhaps you, I'm not sure, seems to be making light of an issue, well, I'm sorry, but I think those are the penultimate questions that need to be asked when someone raises an issue of traffic safety and safety crossing the street. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome. At this time, I think staff has some comments. Could you let us know about our 44 units first that we opened up so the public knows about it?
Yes, members of the Housing Authority, last week we opened up the application process for the Metro Loma project, 44-unit affordable rental project. We had a steady stream of traffic on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at City Hall. We understand at the two satellite locations, Catholic Charities and the Armenian Relief Society had steady traffic, as well as we're trying to figure out how many people have accessed the website and download an application. We've heard a number of people have done that as well. To date, we have about 400 applications that have been received at the P.O. box that will start to go through the processing.
And that facility, does it have a little mini park inside?
It has about 11,000 square foot open space, which will consist of a ball court, a barbecue and seating area, a tot lot area. It's a significant size.
Let us know what other thing we did last week.
Last Wednesday on July 16th, Council Member, Housing Authority Chair Bob Yusefian and Community Development and Housing staff were invited and attended a function sponsored by the State of California Department of Housing and Community Development. It was an awards function. It was the HCD's opportunity to announce allocations that have been made to various agencies and developers of the proceeds from the various affordable housing programs that have been funded by the Prop 1C Affordable Housing Bond that was passed by the voters not too long ago. It's a great pleasure to say that the City of Glendale received, the Housing Authority of the City of Glendale received a check for $1.2 million that was coming from its BEGIN program, that's Building Equity and Growth in Neighborhoods. The $1.2 million will be used towards down payment assistance towards the purchase of the homes proposed for the Dorn Street project. It's not an IndyMac check. Looked at it.
Hey, don't make
It's
fun
right.
of IndyMac.
So,
And that's for 40 units?
yes.
For
Yes, we
purchase?
anticipate $30,000 silent seconds on the 40 affordable units proposed for the Dorn project. That should be coming back to the authority for an amended DDA sometime in late September or early October.
And my understanding is Prop 1C is a $2.8 billion bond issue,
Correct.
and that day they gave out, what, 600 and some odd million?
Billion.
Yeah, we kind of stood around and watched people take $30 million, $26 million, and I thought 1.2 was a large number when I got there, and everybody else was walking away with $30 million, and I was like, I feel cheated. Where's ours? But we're grateful that we got 1.2, but nevertheless, there's another $2.15 billion out there somewhere down the line, and there are several categories. My understanding was that some projects applied for several categories. One of the categories happened to be for infrastructure. So there were people who were asking for money for roads and parks and so on and so forth in conjunction with the housing. So that's one of the things I think we need to start looking at.
And those are the notes I took as soon as you said it, and we've been looking at it ever since.
We need to get the bigger piece of the pie. And thank you for accompanying me there. And it was a very interesting thing to go to an award ceremony and $600 million give out. Many checks. Madeline.
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to note, Mr. Zobak mentioned to me that you were the only elected official there, and Glendale got duly recognized
Yes.
of all the awardees, and they had asked you to say a few words in the beginning.
Yeah,
It
I
was
said a
good
few
for
words,
Glendale.
and HCD was there, and there was a representative from the governor's office also. So, thank you.
Was there any money available for the aquatic park?
No, but, if it's in conjunction with a housing project, now there's a way to get there. It was amazing how many projects were out there. There was one developer that got 3 checks from 3 different categories. One was 30, one was 27, one was 16, 15. I mean, so you add it all up together. There were an awful lot of money that went to L.A. So I guess they knew exactly how to do this. But we learn. That's okay. There's plenty of money down the road, so we will apply. Any other comments? Hearing none, is there a move to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
Second? We're adjourned.